don't have any kind of relatives such as father, mother, cousin, or anybody there, but I have a friend, maybe he's very sick, she's very sick, so then can I apply for a carer visa for him or her?
No, I'm afraid not, because you're not in that level of relationship.
Okay.
And the reason why they're so specific is because this is the sort of care that we provide to each other in our own families. For example, my mother's 92 years of age. She needs care. So myself and my two brothers provide her with care and assistance on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So do you have any kind of extraordinary visa categories for some of artists, journalists?
There's what's called the Global Talent Visa, Global Talent Visa, and that allows for people who've got exceptional skills to be sponsored by either an Australian organisation or an Australian citizen, for those people to be able to migrate to Australia so that those skills become available. Let me give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
A person who, for example, would be in the cricket team or had been a member of the Olympic team might well find themselves in a situation where they could obtain support and sponsorship from an Australian-based organisation, because that organisation wants to acquire those particular skills which are going to ultimately be of benefit to the wider Australian community. And that's called the Global Talent Visa. It's got certain technical aspects to it which are a bit complicated, but the most important thing that we can say about this particular visa is that you have to have an exceptional record of achievement. So it covers both the arts and academia, as well as fields of scientific endeavour, but you've got to have this international profile. So if, for example, you were an expert in immunology or you were a cybersecurity expert, you might be able to get one of these visas.
But there is no chances for actors, dancer, journalists?
An internationally famous entertainer, actor, dancer, whatever, you would be able to be considered for that category. But you've got to have a current, very high record of achievement, and you've got to be able to get the support you need. As I said to you earlier, the best place to apply for a visa is onshore in Australia, so that you don't get caught up in the delays in processing when you are offshore, and you've got access to review rights.
We know after COVID-19 there are so much changes happened in their immigration law before, but what are the recent changes in your law that people should be aware of?
Well, I think that student visas are going to be much harder to get because the current position of the Australian government is that students are applying for student visas, but they're being unsuccessful. And there are some colleges that have engaged in some activity which I suspect is unlawful, where people aren't attending school, but they're still getting qualifications. So student visas are under a lot of scrutiny at the moment. That scrutiny is frightening a lot of the academic institutions who provide these services, including Sydney University. And I'm not suggesting that Sydney University is doing anything wrong, but Sydney University, because they're trying to avoid a high visa refusal rate, they're finding themselves caught up where they're having to make strategic and economic decisions where they might, for example, say, we're not going to take any more students from Bangladesh, or we're not going to take any students from India, or we're not going to take students from Pakistan or Nepal. So they're doing that because they don't want to get a high visa refusal rate. Now, the reason why student visas are refused most often is because the student can't demonstrate that they've got a genuine intention to remain in Australia temporarily. That's what's called the GTE requirement. So if I'm in Bangladesh and I'm saying I would like to study a master's degree, then the first question that immigration is going to be asking will be, well, why are you coming to Australia to study a master's degree? Why can't you do your master's in Bangladesh or do it in the US or wherever. So immigration takes the view that, at least to a certain extent, student visas, although they're very, very important to the Australian economy, and I think that they ranged prior to COVID at about minimum $13 billion, students have been put off by the high failure rate. So you can go through and you can make an application for a student visa and it might be refused, and you can keep on applying, but it becomes very, very difficult. What I would recommend to anybody who's going to apply for a student visa is that they engage the services of a migration agent in Australia who's also an education agent, so they can lead them through that process. It is absolutely critical that all of the documentation be genuine, because immigration dives very deep into the documentation and will often be, through its diplomatic and international contacts, be able to make contact with an institution which says, for example, oh, this person graduated with a Bachelor of Arts. Sometimes those checks reveal that people are claiming qualifications that they don't in fact have.